Does the council expect minutes from this meeting, like for every time we have a meeting? Is that normal?
It is
or-
expected, it is being recorded. You'll get support
Kirby-
from staff to do minutes.
Kirby is doing the minutes.
Yeah, so what she
Tonight
does is
only.
she takes them from the recording that we have, and then she transcribes them. Okay?
Okay. So calling to order the first Londonderry Utilities Committee meeting, March 22nd, Wednesday, 7 PM. And I'd like to start the meeting by going through the Pledge of Allegiance. You'd stand, please.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, good evening, everybody. Just for those who aren't necessarily used to this conference room, just wanted to go through, we have entrances, two entrances to the building, or to this room, back of the room, up in the upper left corner. If anything does happen that you do need to leave the room, we do need to evacuate the room, please use one of those two exits and don't come back until fire, police tell us that it is safe to come back. So meeting format, so getting a little bit of input from Mr. Farrell, the town council chairman. I think we probably want to move up to the beginning of the meeting, talking about officers, chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. And I had thought about doing that a couple of different ways. I don't know if anybody on the committee has preferences on how we nominate, how we elect. I'd be open to hearing any suggestions. I do want to say one thing regarding the secretary position. Tonight, Kirby Brown, the administrative assistant to Mike Malaguti, will be taking care of minutes for us. So whoever wants to be secretary or gets nominated to be secretary, you don't have to worry about that for tonight, but that will be a responsibility going forward.
I'd like to nominate Martha Smith as chair because she was in the previous task force. So it'd be nice to have a transition of the information that they were able to put together to come into this group.
Question for that? I understand, because I'm a little new to this, but not quite. There's one or two of you that were on previous committees that was something like this, I know it was you. Is there anybody else? Because it's nice to bring the level of experience.
Ray.
Ray was, yeah. I talked to Ray.
And Mike,
Right.
Yeah, and in terms of this committee, or the Energy Efficiency Committee, which I think Martha is talking to.
Right.
So right now, I'm a member of the Planning Board, and I'm also the chairman of the Solid Waste Committee.
Okay.
So I do have a little bit of a background there.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Lynn as our chairman. He has guided us so far into this meeting, and he's doing a good job of getting us organized, and his experience is really deep. I mean, he's been on multiple different town boards and committees. So basically, I think he's probably best qualified to do this. He's maybe not got the background in the energy experience, efficiency task force that some of us do, but overall, he's very good at managing town operations, and I know from my experiences with him on other boards and commissions that he's a very good listener, very fair, and I commend him as our chairman.
I would just,
I'll
are we
be vice
debating
chair.
this?
I'd
or
be
do you
happy
wanna-
to be vice chair then.
So someone can
It's
make,
nice to have a lawyer.
Somebody needs a second.
Martha's a lawyer, so it's always nice.
someone can make a motion along the lines of, they'd like to recommend so-and-so as the chairperson, so-and-so as the vice chairperson, and do them all at once. You can do them individually, but they have to be motioned, seconded, and then voted on.
I meant that to be a motion, but if my nomination speech wasn't a motion, I so move.
What is your motion?
I'd like to make a motion for Lynn to be the chair and Martha to be vice chair.
I'd like to second that.
Okay?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion?
Can I ask a question on my
Sure.
motion?
You need a
You
secretary.
have a motion on the floor, you can ask questions between yourselves.
I don't know anybody here. So can we, what, do we have the ability, I guess I'm saying, we have the ability to reassess this after 6 months or 3 months, or if someone else wants to step up and do more work. Is that correct?
That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yearly is the typical, is we'd elect officers every
I
year.
understand that. My question is if within, I don't know anybody here, so and again,
Maybe
no offense
I feel
to,
like you're voting blind.
I'm voting
Yeah, that's
blind.
why
I know
I
everybody.
had a different order.
Yeah, I think that's fair, 6-month vote.
If we adopt, for example, the planning board rules rather than trying to write our own, I think those rules provide, maybe Lynn, for an annual election of the chair.
That's
It's
correct.
certainly
he's
the way we do it.
suggesting 6 months
I know,
over.
yeah, and what I'm suggesting is let's go with some existing rules, and if they provide for an annual election, then we should follow that.
You may go into this, you can always go into it, and if you're 6 months in and you wanna change your rules, and the majority of the committee wants to change the rules, then you can go through a process of changing your rules.
So there is a
But the
structure
majority-
to
But the
adjust.
majority of the committee would have to do that. This is a new committee, so you don't have, past precedent. It is generally, the practice of the community that the boards elect officers once a year. But I understand your question. You probably have some flexibility. I'm not an attorney. We would have to probably get advice from the town's attorney, but you probably have some flexibility. That's not guaranteed, but you probably do.
The reason why I support your suggestion is just because all of us don't really know what the strengths and weaknesses
Exactly.
are.
Yeah.
Right now.
Totally
And
agree.
right now, and that's why, since we're just beginning, I think it's a good idea to have, time 6 months where we evaluate it and say, yeah, let's keep the person, or let's switch around, or somebody else has a medical issue that we didn't know about. I mean, it just gives us some flexibility, which I think is useful in this
So
context.
Agree.
Can I amend my own motion?
You can certainly amend your
Hasn't been
motion.
seconded.
Well, we're still
You have a
talking
motion and a
about.
second on the floor. You'd have to dispose of that motion
Okay.
and then create a new motion. I would suggest to you that you would probably want to just do this motion.
Okay.
You're developing your rules of order as you're going. If the majority of the board wants to change the rules of order, the majority of the board has the ability to do that.
Got it.
Said another way, if you're 6 months in and you want to change something or change officers, if the majority of the board wants to do that, then you have that opportunity to have that discussion.
But it's going to be tougher to do that 6 months in, because everybody's positions and agendas and stuff will be known. So I'm just suggesting that I think it's a good idea to do it now before anybody is, and we're all in our little boxes.
I agree. John, even though he made a motion, can we amend the motion, or do we
withdraw
have
my
to deny the
motion?
motion?
He can either withdraw his motion.
Yeah,
If he withdraws his and the second is withdrawn, then you can have a new motion. You have to dispose of the motion on the floor.
okay.
I'd like to withdraw my motion,
I'll second that.
and I'd like to make a new motion to nominate Lynn as chair and Martha as vice chair for a term of 6 months.
I'd like to second that. Good idea.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye. Aye. Against, say nay. Motion passes.
Get to work.
First order of business is done.
So, second order of business is electing a secretary. I don't know if anybody is interested or
It's not gonna be
understands.
the women. I'm gonna tell you that right
I'd
off
like,
the
I'd
bat.
like to be the secretary, only because I think it would help me advance, to catch up to what you guys already know. Okay.
John?
John.
Right, so John, I'd like to make a motion to nominate John Ferrara as secretary for the committee.
I'd
Second.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion
For a term of 6 months?
for for a term commensurate with the other officers?
Sounds good.
Okay, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Motion is passed unanimously. Thank you very much, John, for stepping up.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may suggest, now that you've elected officers, I would probably take the time to start to have everyone introduce themselves, get to know each other, and then go forward from there if you would entertain that suggestion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that was one of the agenda items that I had, was to do a, let's call it a meet and greet, for lack of a better term, for all the committee members tonight. So I'd like to start, introduce yourself, just why you were interested in coming to the committee, what your interests are, what you think we might want to do going forward. I'm not looking for goals and anything like that at this point in time, but just what your interests are, and a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in Londonderry, that type of thing as well. So I'd like to start on my left. Ray, would you go first, please?
Sure. Are we using microphones here?
They should be on. Yep.
Yeah.
John knows it by heart.
He knows where to find you, Ray.
John, would you like to join the committee? It's 3 Gary Drive, by the way.
See, I've been going to 5 all these years. No wonder I can't find it.
Okay, so moving on. My name's Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive, Londonderry. I've lived in town about 50 years. And we previously had a energy task force, which has now sunsetted because it was a task force and it only lasts for about 90 days, okay? And we made some good progress, particularly Martha and I, and others, looking at the cost of the facilities in the town of Londonderry, like the fire department, police department, town hall. We approached the school department, and we could probably do a little further in that regard. So I think we made some pretty good progress, and we're kind of continuing on here, except now it is the utility committee, which includes a lot of other things, like water, because, we also have a couple of water utility companies, and then we have natural gas, and we have other fuels, and so there's a lot of things to look at, and a lot of people have different expertise, and that's what we're looking at here to see. And my particular thing is water, protection of water. I mean, so I would probably want to concentrate on that, although I do have a lot of experience in energy also. So I think, working together, we can share this information, and so that's all I have to say right now.
Perfect, thank you. Paul?
My name is Jeff McGraw.
Sorry.
That's all right. I've only been in Londonderry since the end of last summer. My wife and I moved up from North Shore of Massachusetts. My background is in mechanical engineering, where I worked in a utility for a little bit as an internship, and then several years as an engineer, and then private equity, investment banking, strategy consulting, primarily in the industrial space. I spent about 4 years as an investment banker in the infrastructure infrastructure project finance. The reason I wanted to get involved with the utility commission is, Londonderry is my town. I want to try to give back to the community. I want to try to make the town a little bit better in some way. I know there's a lot of work to be done, and I have I work from home with my wife, and I have the ability to do some work. And I want to give back. It's my way to give back. You mentioned a couple specific utilities. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's always a lot of opportunity to make improvements. I was surprised that in New England in the year 2023, my wife and I had 4 power outages, which I don't know the specific issues, but that's something that's new to me. If that's something that we can't get away from, then that's fine. But I want to make sure that I understand all the issues, and make sure that we can get the best water, power, electricity, internet, whatever utilities we need for the people of Londonderry. That's why I'm involved.
Great,
So.
thank you.
I'm Mike Speltz. I moved here in 1990. I served on the Conservation Commission, I think, starting about 96 or 7, up through the present, still a member of the commission. I served on a number of task force over the years, the school task force, affordable housing task force, most recently the energy efficiency task force, and my experience is, well, I spent 21 years in the United States Army, 10 and a half years at Raytheon as an engineering manager, 10 or 11 years at the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. And I have designed and built a solar-powered home, so one of my main interests is in solar power. But on this committee, I hope that we can make costs both more reasonable and lower and more reliable for the people of the town. I'm very invested in Londonderry. That's where I've put all my volunteer time, and I hope to continue to do so on this committee.
Great, thank you.
Oh,
Ann?
sure. My name is Ann Fenn, and I've been here almost as long as you. I came in 1992, so a little over 30 years. I always say over. You don't want to give the exact number. It's kind of like giving your age out. So let's see. I worked at the Environmental Protection Agency for 42 years. I worked on a lot of projects, everything from pollution prevention opportunities to doing leading inspections at federal agencies, from Portsmouth to the Naval Shipyard in Groton. We would bring a team of air, water, hazardous waste inspectors down and inspect those facilities to make sure that they're complying with all the federal environmental laws. So I'm pretty familiar with our environmental laws and requirements. I also worked for the U.S. Congress, the Office of Technology Assessment, for 2 years under Senator Orrin Hatch and Senator Ted Kennedy. And that was, the purpose of that organization was to look at technologies before they are deployed, to assess the social, political, economic impacts of the technologies before they're deployed. I also worked with a number of environmental groups when I first went to Washington, and everything from the Center for Science and the Public Interest to the National Council for the Public Assessment of Technology. And let's see, what else can we say? Oh, and then I moved back to Massachusetts and worked on the Massachusetts Contingency Plan. I worked for it was then called DEQE, now it's DES. So I worked with the state environmental agency developing their hazardous waste regulations, and traveled all over the state and explained them to a variety of different groups. So I think that's about it.
That's enough.
What'd you do yesterday?
Thank you very much.
You're
I
hired.
remember.
So thank you.
Sure.
So my name's Lynn Wiles. My wife and I have lived in Londonderry since 1987. I won't do the math because I'll get it wrong. But we have 3 kids. All 3 kids went through the school system here, graduated from the high school, and they're fine, upstanding citizens of the United States as we speak right now. So we've been here a long time. We have a lot invested in this town. We love living here. And at this point in time, we'll probably live here for the rest of our lives. That's our plan right now. So I'm retired. I retired 2 years ago. I was an engineer, project manager, program manager, product manager, various titles with a couple of different companies. I spent a lot of time at Raytheon as well. spent over 25 years at Raytheon. And that experience, I did a lot of work with the government, so I got used to working with the government, understanding how government operates and what's important to them versus what's important to everybody else. And I think that's going to be one of the key things that this committee is going to have to tackle is the regulatory environment and working with the state, working with the federal agencies that really regulate a lot of these utilities that we're going to be working with. Understanding what their environment is and understanding how we can kind of tailor that to our benefit is really what I'm looking forward to. And I like doing that kind of thing. So as crazy as that sounds. But I have 10 years plus on the planning board. I can't tell you how many years on the planning board. Right now, I'm the chairman of the Solid Waste Committee. And understanding Mr. Farrell's comment about merging the Solid Waste Committee with this committee as well, which I think has some good synergy with it if we can ever make that happen, but down the road. But I'm looking forward to working with this group of individuals on this committee. I think there's a lot of things facing Londonderry, facing just us as citizens of New Hampshire in the future, water, air pollution, electricity rates, everything like that, carbon footprint. I'm an avid bicyclist. I love to hike up in the mountains. And so a robust environment, a clean environment is important to me as well. So that's me.
Okay. My name is Martha Smith. I've lived in Londonderry since 1983 with my husband. We have 2 children. Both also went through the Londonderry school system and are both now out of college and both very successful in their careers. I became involved with the Londonderry Leadership, I don't know, program, I guess I would call it. But that was my sort of first introduction to town things, other than I've worked the elections as a poll worker for years. And after going through the Londonderry Leadership, I decided I wanted to get involved. And the opportunity came up to be involved in the task force, and I said, yeah, I'm interested in that. My background is I'm an attorney. I started practicing when I moved up here to New Hampshire. And I first did private practice, and then I was fortunate enough to find an in-house counsel job with an energy services company, and we basically did all kinds of energy services projects, mostly on the industrial side, and municipal schools, and we also did a lot of government work, and so that sort of got me interested in energy, and from there, I would say that I worked very well with Ray on the task force. Just basically what we did as a task force is we were just trying to gather information. And, one thing that was really stood out is that there's no kind of cohesiveness, that the various departments aren't talking to each other and getting like one, overall company to handle things that might save some money. It was very interesting to just learn about how they did things and how the flow through the town of those kinds of expenses. And I'm looking forward to continuing on with that, although I do think that our vision has broadened significantly. And so I think that we will have to sort of zero in on areas where we want to concentrate and where we think we might get the most bang for our buck. And that's pretty much my experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul. My wife, Claudette, and I moved to Londonderry 6 years ago. We're at 24 Pepper Hill Road, a new development, Hickory Woods, up the road here. My wife is a retired nurse practitioner. My son is a mechanical engineer and my daughter's an attorney. So I get free medical, legal, and engineering advice for life. I can tell you that right now. I retired from PSNH or Eversource after 43 years, a few years back. And so I can answer Jeff's questions on why he has power outages. And all, I had the fortunate opportunity to manage a lot of areas of the company, including engineering, operations, customer service, customer call. Did a lot of regulatory work with the Public Utilities Commission. I was at the front lines in the 1990s when deregulation hit New Hampshire, and they were, quote, writing the rules. And dealing with thousands of customers about how complicated this business has now become. So, and one of my last initiatives, believe it or not, Jeff, was to improve reliability in the state. But we were serving 212 towns. I was always fascinated by Londonderry. We had significant investments in Londonderry, as you can well imagine. So I thought, you know, maybe someday I'll live there. And here I am. Why am I here? I've seen a lot of mistakes made since deregulation by a lot of folks. And they're well-intentioned, but I'm not sure when they deregulated this whole industry, there was enough education put out there for people to make intelligent choices and understand what was going on. So I've seen a lot of mistakes. I have no biases about solar power. My current employment, by the way, I got bored. I'm now work for the Palace Theater in Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm their chief financial officer. I installed a 53 kW solar, $200,000 solar panel installation in one of the buildings. It's the building housed by our youth programs, so the kids can see the solar panels every day and see what it does for us and that type of thing. With that said, when I got to the Palace Theater, they had a horrible contract. And I was able to renegotiate that contract to something much, much, much better. So my boss, who you know, got a call from the solar people and said, "Who's this guy Ramsey? He's asking all the questions nobody else asked." Because I used to manage the engineering department, they used to hook up all the solar panels, so I knew what to ask. I'm in Londonderry. I want to give back to the community. You know, if you can avoid making mistakes and make smart decisions, and if I can help that process and explain to you why things work a certain way, because it's not obvious to the outsider coming in. I have connections with the Public Utilities Commission still, with the Consumer Advocate, with other agencies and groups throughout the state. You probably heard recently the announcement by Mayor Donchis in Nashua with this coalition of 13 utilities bought a chunk of power and all that type of thing. Well, interestingly enough, on that committee, the vice chair is an employee who used to work for me. So we have connections there. I'll bring whatever expertise I can to help the community, answer your questions, clarify things. And as long as, you know, you don't shoot me, I'm good. So I just want to give back and help out, that's all.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I retired as vice president of operations. So people ask me that all the time, so I figured I'd get it out there.
Thank you. John?
Hi, John Ferrero. I'm a little surprised. I've been here since 1977. A dirt road, 58 heavy road for 3 years until about 15 cars got stuck in the mud on Thanksgiving Day, and the town selectmen got bombarded about paving that road. My background is out of college. I designed computer mainframes. Like you, I went into new product development, program manager, product manager. Actually worked for one company for 34 years, which was the digital compact HP thing. After that, I decided, what do I want to do? And since then, I've been manager of X-ray equipment, stuff I can't still reveal until the NSA lets me. Oh, I was tasked with redoing Cheyenne Mountain, okay, things like that. So I can tell you about how many satellites. Most of those stars on stars are satellites. There's about 300 we can see right now. So basically, the best part of my career was clinical trials. I got 3 daughters. All went to school here. One works for Dartmouth in clinical urgent care and emergency room. Oldest one is out in San Francisco, and she manages 3 hospitals. And the youngest one works for St. Anne's School and takes care of those kids that have special needs and stuff like that. So I really started getting involved in the town when I started coaching. So I did soccer, basketball, and baseball, which then got me into the field committee with Mr. Lincoln. Not to date myself, but
Everybody loved Bob.
yes. So that took a while, and I was doing it for 10 years. And after I left, somebody donated all the Westfields. That was like, okay. Then I got asked to be on the computer task force to help out since I had a computer background. And the next thing you know, I'm cable chairman. You're looking at the guy who brought you guys and 14 other towns cable in southern New Hampshire. During that period, I actually wrote a letter to Senator Markey in 1985, who was head of the Communications Commission. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. And I said, I have a concern that I'm seeing a movement of these cable companies buying up. They are violating the 100-mile law. There used to be a law you couldn't own a TV station or radio station. They were clearly in violation because they were carrying radio. I objected to that. I was worried about Sony Pictures getting too big and invested in cable, and I think you all know the rest right now. I think there's some things that are really out of control, and that kind of concerns me. The cable taught me a lot. I learned about overbuild, the electrical stuff. What are you going to do for that? In-ground, not in-ground, water. Wait a minute, this, you're going to cross a gas line. Oh my God, it just, so that was a 3 years worth education worth the whole thing. Early on, I got involved in Title IX, where I was asked to go down to Salem High School in front of the planning board and explain to them, in an audience of 300 people, that they weren't there, the budget committee, to discuss whether they're going to be boys soccer. No, there's going to be either no soccer or there's going to be funding for both. And unfortunately, I've been on the front page globally too. So I'm used to that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I'm interested. I want to learn a little bit more. On the way in, somebody, we were talking, and I said, what are we getting ourselves into? And he goes, well, if we don't do it, who is? That's, unfortunately, we all know about volunteerism and the lack of it. So, little thing for you. Yesterday, while I was swearing in, I finished up, and somebody he knows did it. And all of a sudden, this lady behind me goes, well, thank you very much. I went, oh. She goes, I live over on Shasta, and I have polluted water. And I was stunned, because I've been aware of this whole water thing since I moved here. I worked for Digital Equipment on Spickbrook Road across from the polluters. I didn't know it made it this far. So one of the things I'm thinking about is just writing an article, because I don't think most of the people in the town are as aware as you are what's happened to the aquifer in this state. That's what kind of concerns me. They're not aware that
water on Shasta as well.
Really? Okay, so thank you, I took too much.
Great, thank you very much. So I think this, from what I gather, this is an outstanding collection of individuals. I think we have an opportunity to do some really good work here, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Great. I do have an agenda here, so I do want to follow it as much as I possibly can. We did have an opportunity for public comment. We do have some public here. Is there anything you'd like to address the committee? Great, okay.
You're a Republican.
So thank you for that. Okay, so moving on. I should have also said, so there are 2 other people that will be joining the committee as liaison positions. We'll have Ron Dunn, who I think most everybody knows. Ron's on the Solid Waste Committee. He just got elected as a town councilman, but he is also one of our representatives up in Concord, so he'll be our liaison to Concord. And John, do we have liaison assignment from the town council yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so that will be
Well,
pending.
Ron's on the town council, right? So
You
could
could actually do both.
do
if you wanted
both.
to.
right.
But we have,
Up to the microphone, your name. and-
Name and address.
Rick
Well,
Breslin, 3
first
Gary
one.
Drive. So I'm John Farrell, I'm the chairman of the town council, I live at 4 Hancock Drive. We have sent out the liaison assignments. We have not sent this one out yet. I spoke to Ron about doing the state piece. If he wants to continue and do this piece as well, that would probably be apropos. But I'll speak to him about it.
Okay. So we'll have that at our next meeting. Who will be the rep from the
Whenever
town
that may
council.
be.
Yep,
Great.
yep. Okay. I want to have just a quick discussion on RSA 91A, right to know basics. I'd like to, at some point in time downstream, we'll get into a lot more detail about that. But just a couple of things to know. We are a committee in town. Be careful if you come across other committee members at Market Basket or anything like that. If there's a quorum, never have a group where it could be considered a quorum.
What's a
'cause
quorum
Quorum's
number?
going to be.
No, I know what a quorum is, but
Yep,
what's the
so,
number?
so there's seven. So there's 7 full-time members, so it's gonna be 4.
Okay.
It'd be more than half,
Okay.
okay? So you have to just
Is
be
there 8
aware
or-
of that.
excuse me, Is there 8 or 7?
There's 7 voting members at this point in time. Let's see,
I think that's 8.
7.
They're not, that's an even number.
Yeah, I have 7 on my roster.
Are you counting?
Ray is an alternate, so I'm sorry. Ray's an alternate, so Ray will vote when we don't have
Quorum?
a quorum, or
Got it.
when we need
Missed
it.
that
But and we'll have 2 more alternates, there's 2 more positions that are open as well.
Okay.
Yeah, those haven't been appointed yet.
Right, right, so, so that's something to keep in mind as well, is, you know, if you're just out in public, just be aware that people do pay attention. Yes.
So I have a question on that. We were talking as people were sort of filtering in, and I think you've answered my question before I ask it. But if we just want, you know, I don't know anybody here except for tonight and then the election. If we wanted to get together and have like, you know, a team building meeting and have a barbecue just to get to know each other, are we not allowed to do that? As long as we
Don't
don't
talk
talk anything
business.
related to business?
So, in my opinion, we're not. We'd have to notice that as a formal meeting, if we wanted to do something like that.
So what would happen is, as an example, the town council has breakfast before the deliberative session.
Okay,
So we post that, we notice it, and tell people there's 5 of us going to be there. Technically, that's a meeting. So we have a quorum. We don't discuss anything at it.
okay.
I mean, that's just, you know, we don't conduct business there.
Okay, so if
So as an example, if the committee wanted to have breakfast together, you would, you know, contact Kirby, our admin. You would post it that you're having breakfast at Janie's at 8 o'clock in the morning on whatever date that may be. You would not be conducting business there. You're having a social event. You can do things like that, but you can't discuss business.
understood.
So you're gonna have a ton of people at your barbecue.
Now, as an example, if 4 of you happen to be at the same Christmas party, and the 4 of you wind up being at the bar together or at the buffet together, just don't talk about what you're gonna do next on the committee. You can certainly socialize and talk to each other. Yes,
Given a quorum of 4, so as long as we meet in groups no bigger than 3. Okay.
Still can't talk business.
so using the town council as an example, 2 town councilors can have a discussion about, and they can talk about whatever it is they're talking about. But if 3 are together, that's a quorum, and that's a violation.
So as long as we're below 4, we can get together and have
It's
conversations.
not a great habit to do it.
I'm not trying to like,
So as an example, it's always best to conduct business in the room.
sure.
If 3 of you happen to be together and you're talking about something, you're not violating any laws. It's always best to do business in the room. I mean, you hear a lot of things with the town council about, you know, what's being said, this or that or whatever it is. Business is conducted in the meeting room. It's the safest way to do things.
So I got like maybe 2 questions on the same line. Say he and I want to meet in a technical thing, because we're both researching why public
perfect.
service is using an aluminum wire on transformers now at the breaker switches.
You can talk on the telephone, you can meet, you can
That's
talk
okay.
about things. You just can't create a quorum.
All right, and the second thing was,
Let me give you an example.
Okay,
If you
sorry.
reply all on email,
that's exactly my question.
that's a meeting.
That's a meeting.
So don't reply all on email. You'll all be assigned town email addresses. Don't reply all on email.
So how can we among us share information and talk with each other.
Here.
He and I got together, we found out this and this and this, and now we want to share with everybody. We can't do it via,
I would contact the chair,
Yep.
and I would filter your information through the chair,
okay,
and let the chair disseminate the information out to the group.
okay,
That is the way to conduct a proper public meeting.
that's important.
You know, we operate inside of governmental, you know, groups. Do any of you know what a Dillon rule state is?
Heard it, haven't seen it.
You live in a Dillon rule state.
Okay.
Will you educate us?
So what that basically means is that Judge Dillon came up with a concept back in the late 1800s. And what that means is that about 33 or 34 states right now, I believe, follow the Dillon rule. What that means is you're not a home rule state. Massachusetts is a home rule state, which means a city or a town in Massachusetts can create an ordinance or a law that can be stronger or different from state law. New Hampshire cannot do that. We take our direction from the legislature sets the law, and we follow it. We cannot, for example, let's say there's, let me see if I can pick one that's not too controversial. The Second Amendment. We say here in the town of Londonderry, we're abolishing the second, you know, the right to bear arms. No, you can't do that. Or we're gonna say the town of Londonderry is going to be a dry town, you can't sell alcohol here. We can't do that. Those are the things that the state controls. At the planning board level, they'll say things along the lines of that you're going to have X number of workforce housing based on a formula, based on a percentage. And Londonderry can't say, yeah, we're not participating. No, you'll participate because that's the law. Does that make sense?
John, I just want to ask you, I think the point that some of these folks are getting at, like these two gentlemen over here, they're both maybe engineers, they're both kind of on the same page, and they want to get together and have a little discussion, just the two of them. They can do that, yes?
As long as they don't do it with you at 3 Gary Drive.
Or 5.
Okay.
Gotta have a little humor, Ray.
Oh, no, that's okay, that's all right.
No,
You know,
but seriously, you can't all go and meet at your house, is what I mean.
No, that's fine, but it's very important for people that are kind of on the same page or working on the same thing, like energy, water, whatever. They have a discussion between themselves to kind of familiarize themselves at what you might want to bring up at the next meeting.
Sure.
I mean,
As long as we're not a
As long
quorum,
as it's
we're
under
fine.
the quorum.
pardon? No, I mean, two people.
My suggestion to you is if you're thinking that something has a question, direct your questions to the chair.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Well,
go to the chair with all your questions. You know, that is part of the job of being the chair is that you have to be able to disseminate information, and you also have to be able to communicate out to everybody what everybody else is saying.
sure.
So
So
if he does a copy all to everybody, it's okay?
he can send an email out to everyone.
Okay,
Just don't hit reply all.
okay. And we're supposed to only use our new emails?
You should only be using your town email.
Yeah, once they're established, I don't know who has them and who doesn't, but everybody's going to be getting one. So once it's established, yeah, use that email.
You'll be able to access it via webmail from any laptop.
Yep.
Is it-
It just keeps for good governmental records.
Yeah, no pushback, just trying to get.
Oh, no,
the-
no, I'm not saying that, I'm just giving you a reason.
Yeah, sure, not a problem.
And it's for transparency, so that everything that goes on in the meeting is shown and known by.
Do
Public,
understand
too.
something, the town owns your email.
Yeah.
So if the Attorney General's office contacts us and says, I want Ann Fenn's email, here you go.
There you go.
It's public record. If someone sends me an email as the chairman of the town council, it's public record. If Just wants to see my email, he has every right to see my email.
Yep. And not, certainly not tonight, probably not next month, but down the road, we're gonna be getting involved in some issues that will be of interest to the people of the town.
That's what I was asking
And
the
that's where
questions for.
we need to establish those good communication practices now, because at some point in time, it's going to be, well, it's important every day, but it's gonna really matter at some point in time, and people are watching. Always remember that, there are people out there who watch what we do, there's gonna be people watching us on TV.
And we want their input and ideas and
Oh,
suggestions.
I'm not saying we don't. What I'm saying is we
Right.
just need to be out there and doing our business with the idea that, there are people that we're serving the town, the community, the citizens of the community.
So for public business, use your public email, use your town email.
Yep.
Your town email.
Yep.
You can, nothing says that you can't, if you send things out on your private email, I mean, it was just a state Supreme Court case. You have First Amendment rights, you can send things out on your private email, that's up to you. I mean, but it's advisable to use your town email.
And
Where
yes,
can
we,
you
and
really-
yes, we are on air. You asked me the question. And we're in public, right?
I wasn't sure if
We're on
being
camera.
I'm not- Okay, that's what I was asking. Are we
Yeah,
on
well, this is
camera?
all being
Yeah.
recorded.
Are we being recorded or are we on camera or both?
We're live right now.
You're live, the camera's right on me right now, watching me.
We vote.
It's right there. Now, everything I'm doing right now, everybody can see.
1983 cable contract. I had a wire all the town halls.
I just don't want to wear my tie-dye T-shirt.
If you so choose to wear one, that's your decision.
You can wear shorts or Nancy, and then your suit top and the tops.
So I would recommend to this committee, I'm sorry, Michael, please go ahead.
The key thing to remember is you cannot decide, certainly, and you cannot deliberate. So even if it's just a two-person meeting, that should be technical in nature. You shouldn't deliberate, how am I gonna vote? What am I gonna propose? It's just technical. you know. Well, how many, gallons of propane did the school district burn? No, all that is okay, and unlike some boards, we're gonna have to do more work. So it's gonna happen, and to be successful, we can't just sit here in our little platform and say yay or nay to various ideas. We're gonna have to generate data and options, and there's gonna be a lot of work outside of these meetings.
Right.
The question is, when you're doing that work, are you deliberating, are you deciding? If the answer is yes, then it's inappropriate.
Right.
Yeah. The staff is available to you. We have a number of liaison relationships with people like Eversource. I talked to Don at Eversource, who replaced Liz LaRocca, which he's finding out is an impossible task. The other thing to keep in mind is the council, there was a water discussion at the council. There's going to be a DES meeting, with other parties, hopefully by the end of the May or beginning of June. You want to get involved in that. You want to be deeply involved in whatever it is that we're going to be going forward with, and having those discussions. The intent of that meeting is to bring those stakeholders, those agencies that own those pieces, in a room so that the community come in and they can ask them questions. I'm not sure who's going to facilitate the meeting, but they're going to be able to say, okay, I don't understand. Why does my power go out? I mean, first thing I did when I bought my house was buy a generator.
It's on the list, yeah.
But it's those, kinds of things. Those are the type of things you guys can piggyback on and, and be able to, make a difference. However this committee works, it's 100% up to you. Drive it through your chair, drive it through your vice chair, and make it happen. But it's 100% up to you. Did that help, sir?
Thank you very, very much, John. Yeah, so just to close up my comments on RSA 91A, just, don't press your luck on it. Just, follow the rules and be conservative in your decisions, and I think we'll all be good. So, okay. Next on the agenda that I wanted to talk about was agreeing on a meeting day. I assume it'll be 7 o'clock for a time, and I would like it to have it in this room as well, so that we are televised and recorded.
So
And
Monday,
we do have
Wednesdays,
a-
and Fridays?
So, one meeting a month, I think, is probably all we can tolerate. And I know we had a little bit of challenge setting this meeting up. I think going forward, it'll be a little bit easier figuring out a good day, one day a month. And whatever we do decide, we'll have to coordinate it through Kirby, just to make sure there's no conflicts here as well. I don't know how we want to proceed doing that. I was thinking the best thing to do might be to everybody send me your preference, 1 or 2 or 3 days in order of your preference, and I'll just put together a matrix with what works for people. Because if we're sitting here, I don't have my calendar here, I can't tell you what day works for me and what day doesn't. But, I'd like it to be specific, like the second Tuesday of the month, the fourth Thursday of the month. I'm not entertaining Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So don't send those suggestions either. But I would like it if you could just send me, let's say, 3 days in order of preference, and we'll see if we can come up with a consensus on a good meeting day. I know.
Mr. Chair? What are the other important dates we should know about, like when the council meets, or the waste committee meets, or?
So town council meets 2 Mondays a month.
Right.
Generally, it's the first and third Monday. The planning board meets the first and second Wednesday of the month.
Familiar with that?
The Heritage Commission, I believe, is the third Thursday of the month. Conservation Committee is
Second and fourth Tuesday.
second and fourth Tuesday.
I think we should be aware of that.
Yeah,
that's all.
so go to the town calendar if you have any questions and take a look at that as well. But there's a lot of meetings going on.
Yeah.
And I think those are the primary organizations that use this room.
It's probably worth noting that on the third Wednesday of this month, we all made it. And maybe that's worth considering.
That's what's running through my mind.
So,
And the room is available.
Right.
so I would like, so there is a motion on the floor. I would like, so let's hear the motion.
I had a question.
Oh, okay.
What's the motion on the floor? Are we
There
vote-
is no motion on the floor right now.
Okay.
So just still doing the discussion. So, in the absence of having my calendar in front of me, I will for one say that I'm not prepared to agree on a day tonight. But I don't know if that works for everybody else, or your thoughts on that?
Third Wednesday would work for me.
Third Wednesday work for me.
Third Wednesday works for me.
Work for me.
I would just need to check.
As long as it's not a planning board meeting, right?
Planning board, yeah, meets first and
First,
second
second.
Wednesday.
Oh, okay, second?
Second
Yeah,
Wednesday.
so that would work, yeah.
Check the ZBA calendar.
Yeah, so, so I would like to, please just send me in your requests, if you don't mind, and then I think next month. And I have to confirm with Kirby that the meetings room is available on the days that we choose as well, so.
That or Cracker Barrel?
Yeah.
No cameras there.
Yeah, just have your iPhone set up. So if we could do that for the next meeting, I would appreciate that.
And
And
your
what
email?
email should we send it to?
So that's a good question, because I asked Kirby to change my email on the, so we do have a webpage on the town website now with everybody's name and
The hot links
email
don't work
address.
yet. The hot links don't work yet as of
They don't, they,
at mid-afternoon, because I was checking on mine. It's like, oh, look, I have a hot link. And I didn't.
okay, so my email address is lwiles@londonderrynh.org. It's W-I. Common mistake. So why don't you send that to me, and I'll put together a matrix and just, and we can talk about it. I'll let you know the results of the matrix, and then we can talk about it and approve it at our next meeting, if that works.
Did you say londonderry.gov? or-
londonderrynh.org.
Will we set a date tonight for the next meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing we do need to do. And that might be the third Wednesday of next month. We can talk about that, so.
19th of April.
So, actually, why don't we do that right now while we're talking about dates? So we want to set the 19th of April,
Is the third Wednesday, let me double
third
check.
Wednesday, and
April
There's a
5th.
ZBA meeting on the 19th.
there's a ZBA meeting. Okay, so,
This month, this is actually the fourth Thursday this month. 22nd is the fourth Wednesday, excuse me. So the
No, that's
ZBA
right.
meets on the third Wednesday.
so as much as I hate to say it, let's, just send me your preferred dates, and we'll figure out, the date for our next meeting. I think that's the best thing to do. There's a lot of moving pieces to setting up the calendar.
There are 4 Wednesdays in April.
Just curious, the first week of the month, are there other meetings that go on? I hadn't heard that.
First week, so the first week, we have the town council on Wednesday, or on Monday, and then the planning board on Wednesday. And I don't know about Tuesday or Thursday, but I know there are other
Wednesdays are pretty
meetings.
booked, it looks like. The Wednesdays are pretty
Yeah,
booked.
yeah, Wednesday's a popular day.
Necessarily the fourth Wednesday.
So the April 26th would be the fourth Wednesday in April.
Yes.
So maybe if the fourth Wednesday is open.
We can plan on that, but I can't confirm that. We have to talk to Kirby and make sure the room's open and nobody has it reserved and things like that. So,
May has 4.
yeah.
All Aprils, I mean, all months have 4.
Yeah, they do. I just thought, wait a minute. How many months have 28 days? All of them. We might have to do a Tuesday or Thursday or something else.
Okay.
So I guess we don't set a date tonight then.
Yeah, right now, I can't set a date, and, but we'll do that as early as we possibly can to make sure everybody gets it on their calendars with as much notice as we possibly do.
Okay.
Is there any material that we should read or look at for the next meeting? I have one suggestion, since the issue of water has come up many times tonight, and this is an easy one. You can either read the book or you can see the movie. And so if you want to watch the movie, I would suggest, in terms of water and the issue of PFAS, there's a movie, you can get it on Netflix. It's called Dark Water. Yeah.
I've seen it.
And you might want to sit there with a pad of paper and a pen to just take some notes. And this is just one area where the issue of PFAS has come up.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's
Good
really
recommendation.
important.
Good.
And the other thing that I would suggest is the UN report just came out, the IPCC report just came out. You guys probably saw it on the front page of the Times in terms of climate change. And it's always scary, but this is the scariest
Do you have a link?
version.
Do you have a link you can send me in, and I can send that out to everybody?
I would just Google it. Yeah, I mean, I'll Google it and send it to you. if you want.
The title? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Sure. They produce a report every year, and it's usually there are like 160 countries that okay that report. And it's put together by scientists from all over the world.
Including Dr. Ed Carr of Londonderry.
Really, he's on the IPCC?
Yep. He's one of the authors, chapter leads.
Really?
Yep.
Well, he would be a good person to have come in and talk to us. If he was available.
Yeah, I mean, he's in Worcester. We probably need to get a little deeper into the weeds than we
Well-
would cover.
Well, it'd be nice if we read his report first and then asked him, did our homework first and then asked him questions.
The Energy Efficiency Task Force has about 30 documents that you could upload to that webpage if you wanted to. But some of them aren't, a lot of them are working documents, so I don't know how to,
So what I would like to do, Mike, is work through the IT folks here in Town Hall and set up some folders on our webpage where we can put our work products, even including those that are, just work in progress as well. And I think that way it'll help disseminate information across the committee as well as anybody else who might be interested. But I think it's important to have that in a central location. You know, you and I had briefly communicated about the Energy Efficiency Task Force summary, right? Having a place where people can go and find that easily, I think is important. And, just work products like that. And I think going down the road, we're possibly going to be creating a lot of documentation. And that shouldn't be resident on somebody's hard drive at home. That should be resident
Question.
in a share folder
So
somewhere.
that be a share folder just for us, so we can add data to it, take it away and stuff like that?
That I'm
as we're
not sure,
working?
that I'm not sure what we can do. I have to look into that.
We
That's
may-
one question I have.
We may also want a folder that we put into the public library. on the things that we're looking at and reading, just basic information, other people in the community, if they're interested, can go to that folder and read it. And
Hard copy.
right, I'm just thinking of hard copies for folks who don't have computers or don't have printers or whatever. That's actually
I don't want
sort
to
of
print it.
standard.
I don't want them to print it.
You don't want to what?
I don't want them to print it. I want them to read it on the screen.
I
Same thing.
know, I know. But it tends to, at EPA and the Superfund Community Relations Program, it was actually a requirement that there be a folder set up in the local library. Here we have 4 Superfund sites, so I'm sure there's information over there.
I thought it was, and 2 have been mitigated? Oh, that's right, the other 2 are in Hudson, that's right, too. I've been around for a while.
Yeah,
I was thinking about, oh my God, she was around when this is all happening. And we have 4 Super Sun in town and 2 just over the border.
we had emergency response too in Derry.
Yes.
Anyway,
So, just wait for your guidance on how to deal with these after you talk to the IT.
So
guy.
I think it's a good idea if, if the committee wants me to proceed, looking into that with, the town IT folks, I'm happy to do that. And I think we do need a central location for all of our documentation, just so that we're always all on the same page.
Because if we're doing each doing research, I like to be able to put it in there.
Yeah.
And I just have to be able to comment on it.
Yeah.
Before we have a public meeting to discuss that, to make sure it's clean and clear.
Yeah, we could run into a lot of trouble if people start seeing the spaghetti, or not the spaghetti, but the sausage.
Yeah, and
That's,
that's my question too.
Thank
Yeah.
you, let us know. Let us know what we can do, so.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly finished work products, work in progress.
Absolutely,
I don't
but-
know
Well,
what
I
we
would
can do
say
with that.
that there could be attorney-client privilege
Yep.
on a lot of these documents if
Yep.
necessary.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But we need legal advice on that.
Yep. And I think that's gonna be one of the challenges going forward, is how do we proceed going down some of these investigations and creating some of these documents that we're gonna be looking at, because some of them will contain some sensitive information.
In my
Including
experience also, if
proprietary.
they're in draft form, they're not released as in draft form.
Right.
Okay? So many times I've used attorney-client privilege draft document.
I guess I would rather instead, I know there's a sort of a human nature reliance on trying to be careful on the information that we give out. And I think draft documents and things like that. But the public knows we make sausage. They know it. And they're paying for us to make, I mean, we're volunteers, but they're essentially paying for it. So I guess my inclination is to try to give more information out, maybe sometimes than we even feel comfortable with. I can tell you, we had this discussion again and again at EPA when it came to Superfund sites, and the cleanup of Superfund sites. And most of the time, when you gave the information, some people would read it, some people wouldn't. But the issue, if there was anything that was not given out, that's when people got upset. Because they felt something was being done and it was a secret. So it's better, I know, with natural inclinations, but usually you can, we may want input or suggestions on that. I mean,
My reference is more towards inaccurate information.
Yeah.
Right.
so-
right,
Where the
right,
data's wrong, but I don't know it.
right,
If you review it and you tell me you're out to lunch,
right,
that's wrong.
right.
That's the kind of data that I would like to avoid. I mean, that causes
Then you
more.
just tell people it was inaccurate, it was wrong. We get the wrong data.
Mr. Farrell?
So the safe way to deal with your documents are, if they're discussed in this room, put them on the website. If they are in draft format, or if there's something you're working in and it's subcommittee, or if there's something that you have to have legal counsel with, and they have not been discussed in this room, don't put them on the website.
Do we have a
That's the easy way to do it.
do we have a secure, like, Dropbox for the,
That's what I was
through the
asking,
city?
basically, yeah.
I mean, I think that's what we're trying to.
You got to, we're a governmental agency. Everything we do is in the public domain.
Got it,
So,
okay.
so are there things that the IT department can work with you on so that you can have some sort of working documents We just need to make sure that we're not violating any type of, openness or transparency or any, as long,
Great to know.
the best rule is, as I said earlier, whatever you do in this room goes into the public domain.
Absolutely.
That's the best rule to follow. If you have a subcommittee and you're working on something and you feel that it is of a sensitive nature, and you need legal counsel, filter that through the chair, talk to them. If we're not sure it's the right information and it hasn't been discussed in this room, then it shouldn't be in the public domain. You should make sure it's right before it goes into the public domain.
Yep.
But even if you think it's wrong, discuss it here in this room and discuss why you think it's wrong. And, and debate that, but do everything in this room.
Okay.
Try to keep things that are, try not to do things outside the room. If you do them outside the room, then bring them back into the room after you do it.
Good advice, thank you.
Is that,
No.
I mean, that's the way we try to do
Yep.
every committee, from the council on down. That's the way we try to do things.
And, and just from my perspective too, what I see us doing in the future is a little bit different than any other
Yes,
board or committee that I've been on, so I think it's gonna be a learning experience as well.
right.
So, so with that said, anytime a question comes up, ask the question, and we'll figure out the right answer to it. I don't know what the right answers are tonight. I mean, I don't think any of us know what the questions are tonight, let alone the right answers, so. But, let's grow with this, let's figure out what works for us. I think we'll start by collecting some of the documents like the Energy Efficiency Task Force results, and let's get those into a publicly accessible location off of our webpage. And we'll start the ball rolling with some of the data that is out there that we should be getting our arms around, and it really pertains to what we're doing.
I think we're going to have to choose subcommittees or people that have a particular expertise on energy or whatever. And those people are going to have to do their own research and then bring it back here
Right,
and to review and discuss.
right.
But in order to do research, you're going to have to reach out to maybe, if we're talking energy, maybe Eversource or something, But before we make any decisions, we bring it back here to discuss
Right.
and review in the public. Yeah. Initially, we did stuff pretty much within town.
Correct.
But we're going to be potentially reaching out beyond the boundaries of town to gather further information.
Sure.
Which is going to mean that we're going to have to contact other agencies in Concord, wherever, and then bring that information back, not making any decisions, bring it back to discuss and review.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be a real learning experience for all of us, if nothing else. It's just a,
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun.
oh, it will be,
Hopefully.
it will be.
Until
Then
our
you'll
spouses see
follow
our
up.
faces on the front page of the paper.
Yeah,
So you'll follow up with Kirby and to get the website and the
Yes.
numbers and
Yep.
all of that stuff, that will be on you?
Yep.
Okay.
yep,
Thank you.
yep, so I've had somewhat successful dealings in the past with that.
Good, good.
Okay. So I just wanted to go over a couple of other bullet points that I had, and then we'll finish up. I always run my meetings where we'll have a roundtable discussion at the end where everybody gets a chance to say what's on their mind, and we'll just go one by one just to make sure that everybody does get in a space to state what's on their mind. But before we get into that, just a couple of other things. Like we talked about earlier, there are 2 alternate openings still on this committee. If you do know anybody who would be a benefit that them being on the committee, please let them know, reach out to them, have them fill out the talent bank form and have them send that into Kirby to announce their desire. The 2 positions have to be approved by the town council, so it's not in our hands, but, it would be nice to have a full round.
Yep,
Do they have to be a resident of London?
Yes.
yes.
Just want to clarify that.
Yep. And, okay, so we have that. Next meeting, I would like to figure out who we can engage. I know Mike's volunteered to give us a summary of the Energy Efficiency Task Force from the work that was done in 2022. Another thing that I would like to have somebody give us some background on or a presentation on, and I'm going to reach out to Mike Malaguti on this, is to get a good understanding of what the St. Cobain consent decree is and where we're at with that and that whole process.
Yeah. He actually talked a little bit about that at the town council
Right.
meeting.
Yep.
And we should have copies of that consent decree and just read it. I mean, it's not 800 pages or anything. but-
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's worthwhile as well, is we need to know what we're, if you do your homework ahead of time, we can have a lot more efficient meeting. And then the other topic that's kind of on my mind is, I know there's this electricity consortium that are out there, various ones that are out there. There was a contract signed by a previous town manager. I don't know what that means from where, if it binds us today, I don't know what that means from a cost standpoint. I just know that there's something out there, so I would like to have, Mr. Malaguti give us a briefing on that as well, and what that means to us.
I have
You
a
get a
copy of
copy
that.
of the contract?
I have a copy of that contract.
Can you post it on the website so we can?
Yeah, can you, do you have that in PDF?
I don't have it on PDF, no, but
You have a
I,
scanner?
Yeah, could you scan
I
it?
could
Send me a
scan,
copy?
I could scan it maybe, yeah,
Send me a copy, then I'll get it out to everybody.
yeah.
Because I think that's a topic that I think is an area where
I would
we
imagine
can help.
The Freedom contract, is that the one you're talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Just a quickie on that, what it means? I mean, there's a consortium. was it a-
Basically, ooh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Basically, it is a power purchase agreement. So it's a company that's going to look at various providers of energy and choose one that would be best for the town in terms of price, I guess it's
Okay.
based.
Town buildings?
Well,
it'd be for
it
the-
kind of was a little broader than that.
Yeah,
this
everybody-
But it was, it's only like 3 pages long. It's not a, like, really complicated agreement, and it was held up for quite a while after it was signed because the PUC didn't know how to deal with everything that was going on with these aggregates and people doing that. So they were working on their rules, and so
So before I moved here, I lived in a town called Templeton, Massachusetts, and we made our own utility company. So we managed the power lines and we paid at a flat rate. So that's out there near Orange and Athol and stuff, and there were nights it was 14 below zero. I had an all-electric house, and my bill would be $75, $25 a month. So I moved to here and I built my house with electric. And my first $800 bill hit me, and I said, I'm getting me a wood stove. So I inquired why we couldn't do it here, and I said, oh, it's different. This is New Hampshire. It's owned by the, so. Good. I'm gonna read up on it.
Yep, good, good.
I mean, it's
I
a good
just-
idea, but when we were in the task force, there was another company that came in that was doing community. This is the one that Nashua
Right.
got involved in. And they're trying to get a bunch of towns together, so they'll have a, it won't just be Londonderry and a company working for Londonderry, it's a company working for a bunch of towns.
Regional
So,
plan,
then you get maybe even a better rate.
So if we get enough residents to put up solar panels, we might be able to have our own electric company, you mean?
Well, we looked into solar too. But
It's called the aggregation concept.
yes, exactly.
Very good.
The difficulty is that right now, we are obligated under that contract.
Yes.
We can't go to somebody else until I think we have to give them a 12-month notice to withdraw from that contract. They have argued that if we do that, there's a negotiated per kilowatt hour price for their service, and that price would apply whether we continue the contract or not. I'm pretty sure that's legally indefensible, but it's out there. But for sure, we are right now obligated to work with them. We are obligated not to talk to anybody else,
Right now.
which we, in good faith, did by mistake. But once we figured out that, that was the contract, and we cut our connections off with the Community Power in New Hampshire. So, and it was painful to see, I think it's 10 towns that voted in this March election on community power, through Community Power in New Hampshire, and to see us not in that number, because we were out in front, and we're not anymore.
And here's the problem. Who's doing the negotiation, okay? That's why we need to be involved in some of this, okay? Now, this may be water under the bridge that perhaps we don't have anything to do with, but we got to be very careful how we move forward
Yeah,
in the future,
absolutely.
because we're dealing with municipal water too, that we really got a lot of issues with. So
Right.
we got to be very careful how some of these things get negotiated by either a town manager
Right,
or,
right.
Or
And
whoever.
I don't know how that agreement was really, it wasn't really that long an agreement to have had a long negotiation.
Well,
I'll take a look at the contract.
So-
I've dealt with Freedom Energy on other contracts.
I'm curious to
So
hear.
Lynn, could I have you, or could we have you get in touch with the town and have copies of these contracts, or the utility contracts, put on the website so we can get a look at them, or put them somewhere so we can get a look at them?
Yep.
Because I've sort of been making a list as we've been talking, and I'm sure there's duplicates here, and I'm sure I've missed something, but I'm thinking, we need to think about natural gas, water, electricity, fuel, propane, whatever, internet, sewage, hazardous waste, contaminants. We talked about the Superfund sites, solid waste, the dump, which we're already looking at, fuel, storm drains, roads, protected lanes, cables, Superfund sites, and there's duplicates there. But, that's a lot of stuff, and I know I'm just sort of riffing those.
Yep.
What I'd like to see is, these are the 17 different things that we need to look at. John mentioned only 6 goals, which, that's very appropriate. We can't touch 17 things at a time.
Yep.
Right.
What I think would be really helpful is if we could get a list of, these are all of the utilities within Londonderry. I doubt we have a steam plant in Londonderry. We don't have the density for that really. But these are the utilities that we have.
We have a gas plant.
yes, we do.
Which generates steam.
We sell it?
What? No, we don't own it. We don't own it.
We don't capture it.
Oh, well, we can fix that.
I know.
But if we could get our hands on, this is where we're starting from. At least these are the buckets that we have. There's 17 things. I'm just
Yep.
making a number up.
Yep.
Then as we get to the next meeting, we can talk about, these are the, subcommittees maybe, or these are the different areas that we can attack immediately. And these are some of the longer term things that we consider. Maybe in the future, we can say that Superfund sites are now part of our Utilities Commission for whatever reason, because we have the bandwidth, or we're really good at what we do.
No, we'll let EPA handle
I'm just
the
saying, but we can be the town, I'm just saying, we can be the town liaison.
RPMs.
But it would behoove us to keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, regardless, I'm saying, it would be helpful to know that these are the areas that we're looking at, these are the things that we're talking about. Now we have 4 different propane suppliers, and we have, propane and kerosene and these different suppliers of truck-delivered fuel. I know we get propane, or I think it's propane, it could be kerosene, I don't even know, my wife pays the bills. But it'd be nice to know if we had someplace that has that written down for the town, if we had some of these contracts that are existing power purchase agreement contracts, to at least sit down and do a bunch of homework before we come into our next meeting. I apologize, I'm kind of cold coming into this, and I sort of asked to get it, but it's my fault that I didn't push hard to get some of this information. But if we could get some of these, then we could probably have a productive meeting next meeting to say that these are the real pain points within the town, and if there's guests, we can get some feedback, and we have, obviously we have someone who's really strong in electricity, and we have people that have experience in renewables.
Yep.
And we can start sort of structuring how we want to go down this list. And again, this is our committee, so we can adjust, and we can change things, but I think the first step is, these are the buckets, this is where we are today, and then we can start discussing on what our strategy is to address some of these and make them better.
I think first off, we all need to do our homework to catch up to where we're at.
Absolutely.
Okay? I mean, that's the starting point, okay? We need to review the information that we currently have, where we're at, and then decide on what are the priorities moving forward. Like you say, if you got 17 items there, well, we ain't
Can't do 17,
addressing them. We're gonna pick maybe 4
Yeah.
that we're gonna look at and move forward
I
with it.
guess my suggestion too is after we hear the summary of
Yes.
the work that you all did, was that it might be useful, in addition to getting those contracts, to hear from John and Mike as to what they consider the pain points to be. I mean, I think those guys have been working on this for a while, so I think it would be useful to get their expertise.
Absolutely.
I 100% agree with that. What I'm trying to say is,
No,
if we want to be productive,
Yep.
we can't meet for 2 or 3 hours once a month.
Right.
We have to spend a lot, given that we have, and again, I'm just going to say 17 things, there's a bucket load of work that needs to be done. And we're going to have to do a lot of it by ourselves.
And share the
groups of
information,
two.
so we're all up to speed at the same time. That's why I was
Yeah.
asking about shared
I
folders
mean,
and stuff.
this could be a small business. I mean, not trying to say that we're going to make money with this, but
No, we're losing
there's
money.
there's a heck of a lot of work that needs to
Only
be
the liquor
done.
store makes money.
Pardon?
Only the liquor store makes money.
That's right.
In the state of New Hampshire.
So what I'm trying to say is, if we could get some of the in consult, I'm a strategy consultant. In consulting, it's like, can we get the prior art? And and these are the key, again, 17 issues.
Sure.
We'll
about
just-
4?
or 4. 17 we'll pair to 4.
Yes.
And then if we find out that the 4 are the wrong ones, we can adjust in a month or 2 or 3 or never. So would that be something that we could get for the next meeting? Or we could get as back and forth between now and the
We
next
can
meeting?
certainly have the discussion with the town.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That would be helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you for showing up.
Thanks, John.
Yes,
I do have a question. I wasn't sure if you could address it or not.
I can try.
And don't read into the question. Whenever I join a board for an organization or anything, I always ask the same question. And the question is from a liability perspective as a member of this committee. If I'm on the board of an organization, they typically have director and officer liability for its board members.
Do you know?
In case you get sued or whatever else like that. Are we on this committee covered by some sort of town insurance along those lines?
Primex is our carrier, and it's actually spelled out in the town charter. And if you're a organization, I'm not the town's attorney, but if you're an organization that is sanctioned by the town council and doing work for the town, there is what that exactly says, I don't know, but there are, and the town attorney would have to answer it from the standpoint of what you are covered for and what you aren't covered for, but it is spelled out in the charter, what the council is covered for. And the committees that would work under it would probably, I'm not, fall under the same umbrella. My suggestion would be is if you think you shouldn't be doing it, don't do it.
Yeah.
I understand that. I mean,
Yeah, but there is a section of the charter that speaks to liability.
I've also done the right thing and gotten,
We've all done the right thing and, gotten that, tap on the shoulder, we'll just call it. But I understand what you're saying. I'll give you a great example. We signed a 12-year agreement with Comcast 2 years ago. So taking a look at their agreement really probably isn't gonna accomplish a whole lot.
Yeah, we put it on the list of 17 and discard it.
I mean, that, they happen to be the cable and internet provider that, has infrastructure here in town that we have an agreement with.
Sure.
Nobody else offers what they offer right now in town.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Across cable lines, I should say.
yeah, but if we put internet on the list, 12-year contract, revisit in 35, that's done. We're done with that for that.
That could be, one particular case.
Yeah.
The town does have liaisons to all of these different utilities.
Perfect.
Bob Carey, who's our environmental engineer, has access to a lot of different contracts and pieces. All contracts have to be approved by the town council and are all signed by the town manager. So all those documents do exist.
Okay.
As far as this, is it Freedom Energy? Is that the one that was? We started talking to them 4 years ago, and I think it took about 3 years for the whole thing to get through the PUC, and I don't remember if it's 12 or if it's 6 months. There might be a 6-month out too if they haven't done anything yet. I just don't remember. I'd have to reread the contract. but I really don't remember.
It's not the contract.
It seemed like a good idea at the time. 4 years ago.
Famous last words.
Everything pre-COVID was a great idea.
John,
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
could I get that agreement with Comcast? Because there is a federal law that says they can't restrict an overbuild. So if another cable company wants to come in and overbuild, they have to
It's
let-
available in the town manager's office.
Is it, son?
Yeah. I honestly, I just, I think we signed it 2 years ago. And then it might have been 3 years, but, but it's somewhere in that area. Am I dismissed?
Thank you, John.
Thank you, I hope everything was helpful.
Oh,
Thank you,
very
it
much
was.
so.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
very much so. I'll reach out to the town manager and
Great.
start collecting those documents.
Yeah, engineers want the data.
Yep, I'm not gonna make any commitment that they'll be there for
That's fine.
I have a general
next meeting
question.
or this year.
More curiosity, because I think probably more you're experts and stuff like this. Will we be getting into things like, what monies are available, like, I used to call them Superfund monies, like to, bring water service to the people in the town that have polluted wells? Things like that. Will we have to research and stuff like that?
Conceivably,
Okay,
Our job is to go find it.
yeah,
What's that?
conceivably.
Our job is to go find it.
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering. And
Well,
won't
the
have to
study was
research-
actually, the
Well,
$100,000
if you-
study was done by Weston, right?
If you have
Those
any
two-
questions, call the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. They have all that information,
Yeah.
okay?
All-
And by the way,
They have a load.
if somebody has a contaminated well in Londonderry, even, I believe, beyond the, what do we call it?
Centigrade.
Century line, they're entitled to up to $5,000, I believe,
remediate.
for
Okay.
a water filtration system, okay? All that information is available.
That's
If you
what
have
I
any
was
questions.
Yeah, it is.
And there's no problem for that gentleman calling, right,
He can
on his
go
own,
to-
right?
yeah, He can go on the DES website, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And I could find out how much water Massabesic Lake can actually supply when they have to pipe in all of Derry, Londonderry, Wyndham. and stuff like that.
that's already done.
So, yeah, that
That's what I was
information's
wondering.
already out there.
Yeah.
So I will say, I will just caution one thing, if you do call the state or something like that, if, you know, you're representing yourself as an individual and not as a spokesman or a representative of the committee, unless we talk about it
I
ahead of
asked the
time.
question in general because I want to know how deep we're going to go and how much service we can provide the
I
town.
think
don't know
that's
yet.
gonna be us to decide.
Okay.
It really is, so.
Just to let you know, in terms of water too, last week, the EPA came out with standards for
Well,
new
you know,
standards.
if you need any
Right, for
information,
PFAS.
I have plenty of
And
information,
it's
okay, that you can
four
review
parts
on your
per
own.
trillion
and
for the.
do your
so
own
it's
research,
very-
too.
We're talking very low,
Yeah, New Hampshire's
very
too
low.
high now.
lower than New
New
Hampshire.
Hampshire's is too high. Their standards are way over
Much higher
EPA
than that.
now.
They will now come, they'll be required to come down. But part of the issue is even when it comes to, maybe you guys would know more about this, but in terms of, say, the reverse osmosis system that people are putting on their houses, is that system going to get you below the 4 parts per trillion?
Correct.
And we, right, right,
So it's a whole new ballgame.
right. So I wanted to throw that out to you all.
Okay.
My
So-
house is the last house on the Southern New Hampshire water system. I'm not kidding.
You're lucky.
So when a pipe breaks, my filter turns brown.
So I'd like to, good discussion, I'd like to move this on if we could. So I have covered everything I would like to discuss, so this is where I go into the roundtable discussion, and just if there's anything else you want to talk about before we do adjourn, this is your opportunity to do that. And Ray, anything that you'd like to bring up for the committee as a roundtable topic?
Well, personally, I do a lot of research on my own anyway and have for a long time, okay? For instance, I go to meetings up to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for groundwater and drinking water trust fund, okay? Anybody can go to that. Any citizen can go to it. I go as a citizen, not as this, because we hadn't even started this, but so anybody that has questions can participate in going to these meetings if you have the time. I had a meeting over in Seabrook today with the regional planning commission. And I go just as a citizen to learn. And so what we did in the past is we actually invited in some experts to some of the meetings. And I think we might want to think about doing that again to,
To educate us.
absolutely, you know what I mean? I mean, I've talked to the energy advocate up to Concord. You folks know who I'm talking about.
Mr. Crease?
Yeah, okay, so, and you can have your own opinion about him, and maybe that's not the person we want to have come in. But sometimes you can have some expertise that people would be willing to come in and share that information with us. For instance, the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, we invited them to come in and have a meeting with people that had contaminated wells to explain to them what they would have to, paperwork they'd have to make out so that they could get a rebate, okay? And they're perfectly willing, if we ask them, to come into a meeting, to bring us up to speed on.
Yep, absolutely.
or If you want to ask questions.
Yep.
Or you can do it on your own too, as far as I'm concerned. I don't see any reason why you can't. I mean, that's the way we're going to have to move forward, is to, whatever you're working on, whether it's energy or water or natural gas or sewer, or whatever you're working on, you're going to have to probably have a little conversation with whoever you're working with, not make any decisions, but gather that information to bring it back.
Right.
So that's the way I look at it.
Great,
Thank you.
great, thank you. Jeff,
I'm good for now.
Mike?
I'm going to build off a little bit on Jeff's discussion earlier. The idea of identifying our challenges, let's say, which is really a way of setting priorities and ultimately getting us to a work plan and probably subcommittees, which we've kind of hinted around at. So I think that needs to be our immediate focus, is to say, what are we up against? How are we going to tackle it? And, in line with that, which brings me to my next point, is our success is going to depend a great deal on the willingness and the ability of the town staff, who are already overscheduled and overworked, to work with us and provide us data. We experienced this in the previous task force, and they were very good about it. And they dug deep and they provided a lot of data for us. And I've got a pile of paper that high, Jeff, that I'll bring to start you on if you want.
I love it. I love it.
So we need an understanding with the town manager on how we can work with the staff. Do we want to have a single point of contact? Can we have multiple points of contact? Does it all have to go through you? Can the water guys work with Ray and the electric guys work with Paul? And so we need to come up with some kind of, maybe even a documented understanding of how our committee is going to work with town staff, because without them, we're not going to get much done, because we're not going to have the data.
Yep.
And then my final point is just sort of overarching all this is, I think we probably ought to identify a set of goals for ourselves. I don't mean objectives like, build a solar farm, but I mean things like safety, cost, reliability, that sort of thing. And so what I'm thinking is maybe just challenge ourselves to give some thought to what those goals should be, and we can share them over the next month, and then have a discussion based on things that we see that look to be in common at our next meeting.
Great ideas.
Build a solar tower. Oh, okay.
Thanks, Ann?
I think in addition to having a point of contact with somebody in the town government, we should think about how on a continuing basis we're gonna get some of our information to some of those people. For example, on water. Water is an ongoing issue, which is being talked about at all different levels, from the federal to the state to the local. And I think any help that we can provide to Mike and others is going to be of assistance. I guess that's one issue, is to make sure that the work that we do is actually funneled in and used by people. I don't want just a packet of information that we have in our homes, that isn't used. I guess my second big issue is to make sure that citizens hear what we're up to and what we're learning. And they have questions, issues that they want to bring to us. And I think it would behoove us really to have sort of these are all public meetings and people can go on cable and watch it. But I think it would be helpful to have a meeting in the high school cafeteria with all of us and the public open to say, okay, what are you guys doing? What's happening with this committee? What's the status of this committee? And give them sort of a report as to what we're doing and get their ideas and input on what we're doing. And whether we do that every couple months, every 3 months, I think it can only help to improve what we're doing, and we will learn more from people as to what their concerns and issues and information. A lot of people are going to have information that they want to give us. That can only help our process. So I guess I would suggest that we have a communications group, and it doesn't have to be super complicated or super elaborate, but I think it would involve having a public meeting every few months and making sure that the information that we have up on the town website is current.
Great, good ideas.
Thanks.
That it?
Yep.
Martha?
I think everybody's pretty much covered everything. I'm looking forward to moving forward.
Great. Paul?
I don't know what to expect, but I'm impressed by members of the committee already. I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I can to, improve things in general, so I'll work with you. You'll have to show me the ways, okay?
We're gonna figure those out as a group, I think.
And be patient with us, that's all I ask, okay, so.
It works both ways.
I hope, trust me, I understand that, so, glad to be here.
Great. John?
Like your idea. Also, so we can get maybe input of what direction they'd like, for us to take. There's things we might not know about, When that lady turned to me and said, oh, I live in Shasta Drive, and every week I gotta change both these filters, and it's like, well, maybe we should get more information out there, and, maybe, we should maybe start doing a master plan to pipe the whole town, with water, and that way we can, amortize the cost. And if we're gonna do that, then we need to really talk to the electrical people about putting more stuff underground, so this grows and grows and grows, but that's kind of the thoughts I was thinking this could be working on, stuff like that. Also, I'm a research nut. I don't know if you were in the planning board then, but I was the guy who led the committee about the water tower. I learned more about water towers in 2 weeks, about pressure valves, release, reverse flow, all that kind of good stuff. So I like doing the research and stuff like that, so.
Good.
Okay?
Great.
I'm impressed everybody here, so,
Great.
thank you.
Anything else from anybody tonight? Take a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Great.
All right.